Okay, Mech Warriors, jumping in with a two-part Battletech question. Part one, we're going to look at variant mechs that you play as a primary type mech. Part two, we're going to look into some experimental tech, looking to understand the tactic of Battletech and focusing primarily on light mechs to ask the question of how do things change the function of light mechs? And often what's interesting with some of the light mech variants and experimental tech, it's still low enough in battle value, but it kind of breaks the mold of how some light mechs operate. It makes them a little bit more aggressive. And I'm going to be sharing one of my favorite mechs that I play, my continued goal to become the most feared Locust pilot in the Inner Sphere, but of course adapting it to any of the type of tactica, or I should say your player personality Battletech that you like to play. So primarily Battletech, in the narrative, in the tech manuals, you have a primary configuration of a mech. This is what the sales brochure said. This is how it plays. This is what it does. This is how most of the configurations are. But then when you read through the tech manual, you see that, oh, look, there's these things called variants. And the variants are the same mech, but some swaps with the weapons. Dropping something, changing something, adding some heat sinks, doing something. We could say customization. And the idea is as the mech evolved in battle, they discovered, well, we can also play this way. It can go in this direction. It can support in that. You also see some configurations that changed because of the design and became permanent. You see this with some mechs where certain components on a mech became hard to produce in the narrative, so certain houses switched PPCs for something else, right? Or changed this type of weapon for something else, and that's kind of the primary configuration for that house because their facilities can support all that. Example might be a mech with a PPC. There's a variant that jumps it down to a large laser because they're easier to produce and maintain, so that's a variant. Layered over that, I wouldn't call these variants, but look, anything's possible. Battletech has complete mech creation rules. So you can build a mech. That's a vlog for another time. What's interesting is you could totally design your own mech, 3D print it, and play it, and it's street legal, tabletop legal. You could play it. You could do it. There are complete customization rules that follow this. So I say that because there are many, many variants. You might play a certain mech and decide, hey, you know what? I really like doing this. I want to kind of do that and change the configuration to suit your player personality and tactic. And now you've got a new variant. You could totally play that every time. So within that framework, the primary Locust is the medium laser and the 2 machine guns. I tend to be a little bit more aggressive with my Locusts, getting rear armor, running a Locust swarm. I use them in groups of 3, 4, or 5 to act as spotters, but also to run up the flank and swarm. So I found the variant that works for me is I drop out the machine guns and I take the 2 SRM 2-packs. The 2 SRM 2-packs. So this gives me 2 2-packs and a medium laser. The speed, the mobility to get rear armor on an isolated mech or a support vehicle in the back with 3, 4, or 5 of these, it's very interesting. It wants to play a lot more aggressive because if we look at the primary variant, and I say most of the time, right? Most of the time, the primary variant of the Locust is you just got a medium laser on 2 legs. You're running around. You're engaging what you can at distance. You're acting as a spotter. Really, the Locust, I don't want to say a laser magnet, but one of the Locust tactica is I get you to shoot at it instead of other mechs or other targets. And the speed and the distance, look, I'm hoping you're not firing that PPC and you need an 11 or a 12 to hit. I'm hoping you don't roll that. The odds of you rolling that are not as good. So from that perspective, if I can get you to waste shots at that Locust, that's not going on other targets. So the Locust isn't always about doing damage. It's about screening and preventing damage to your other lances or other units. Well, we're flipping that up with this variant, and now I'm going to close and get really, really close to you. Rear armor hitting with a medium laser and the SRM packs that's going to soften things up, or if I can punch through rear armor, the spread of the missiles is much more effective than the machine guns. Where the machine guns, I need to absolutely engage point blank one hex away to try and be able to actually hit. And if I do hit, it's machine guns only one shot to one shot. The SRM2, I roll well, it's splitting the missiles, so spreading out a little bit more. This is the standard variant that I play. Now, another interesting variant that I experimented with was the exact opposite, flipping it, drop the machine guns, and they go to LRM packs, exploring that. That's kind of interesting. A fast-moving LRM pack, slight increase in battle value. But I found the challenge, I won't say the challenge, the play style with that was I also like the Valkyrie a lot, and I regularly play Valkyries. That's the light mech that's got an LRM 10-pack. 10-pack in a light chassis stock is interesting. That's something that's not regularly seen. You know, Clan Tech's completely different, but Inner Sphere, that's not something that's regularly seen. So essentially a 10-pack on two legs with good mobility and decent speed. That's where I'll run, 2 or 3 or 4, a lance of Valkyries just to run that interference. To play the Locusts would replicate that. Then I'd never get to play two type of mechs. But that's the first aspect. And I push that out there to look. We see this on light mechs the most because primarily a light mech is a scout mech, is engaging at distance, doesn't want to close, it doesn't want to be very aggressive, but you see some of these variants mean you can get aggressive. It still maintains its scout role, it still maintains its harassing type role, but you can also get aggressive and close with it. The challenge here, of course, is it is a light mech. So if my Locusts can get behind you and consistently get rear armor because I have infantry and I have static units like LRM carriers or longbows that in terms of initiative, I'm moving or not moving those first. So my Locusts are always going last. And then you're going to move your pieces. Then I've got my Locusts move. That's how I'm protecting them and getting behind you, unless you're parked on the edge of a map in the corner. Then I'll go somewhere else. But the challenge becomes if I make a mistake, or if you play some of these variants that are a little bit more aggressive, and you make a mistake, you got nothing to fall back on. You're not like a medium where it's, look, I don't want to get hit. But look, if I do get hit, as long as it's not a headshot, I'll eat a PPC. I'm still up. Like you can't. You absolutely cannot get hit. You can take maybe a medium laser. You can't take PPCs or large LRM spread packs. It's just going to decimate you. So from that perspective, when you switch to be more aggressive with these variants, absolutely it opens things up. Sometimes it fits your player style for a low battle value buy-in. Because usually when you start getting aggressive, the buy-in is going to be mediums, or at a minimum, low-level heavies. And they work, and it does what it says in the tech manual, but that's a significantly higher battle value buy-in. So in exploring that, the primary, the variants, adjusting to your play style. Okay, that was part one to frame it. I'm going to push up part two in a little bit, and we're going to explore experimental tech. Battletech's a big universe. The tech is out there. Pay your bills and you'll get access to the tech, incorporating some of that into the game.